Assalamu alaikum and good evening, and welcome to our LIT webinar series 8. LIT is a legal innovation and technology webinar series, which we do every other week. And we have a special guest every time. I am Barrister Tasnuba Shelley. I'm your host and speaker. I have a legal experience of over 18 years. I'm an advocate of the Supreme Court of Bangladesh. And every time we talk about legal innovation and technology, and this March is a special month. We are celebrating the Women's Day, and we had a special woman, powerful lady with us earlier, and this week also today also we have another powerful woman with us who has inspired inclusion, who has actually inspired many women, helped many women around the world, and inspired all of us, including myself, who's a very dear friend of mine. And I'm so glad that she has given her valuable time and woke up very early in the morning to be here with us today. A little bit about what we are going to be talking about in our webinar is how she has basically been, here, how she came so far and how she's overcome the challenges. Our guest today is none other than America's top startup visa lawyer, Tahmina Watson. She's the founder of the immigration law firm herself, and she has a very successful career as a lawyer, as an author, as a social worker, and as a speaker. She has been basically working nationally, internationally for years, and we will be hearing more from her today as we go further into details. And one of the best qualities about her is that she's the mother of two, and she makes time for her hobby. And I don't know how she balances everything, and she carries on with her hobby, and I really want to know how she does it. She is an avid bird photographer too. She helps many charitable causes. She's written great books. One of the famous books that she has written is the Startup Visa book, for which she was in the New York Times Square billboards. As having a Bengali in the New York Times billboard was a moment of pride for all of us. And thank you, Tamina, for making us all so proud. You have been, made us proud, not just being at the New York Times billboard, but also being the voice at so many podcasts, and saving so many, employment-based, immigration-focused startups, founders, and entrepreneurs, and help them at the time of need. Recently, you were actually at the Select USA's inaugural tech summit in Mexico, and where you have worked for many years, and you were a panel speaker in that one. Thank you, Tamina, for advocating for the visas for startup founders and for being here with us today. And like I said, in spite of your busy schedule, waking up early morning for us at this hour. And I really welcome you in our webinar series, and which is, like I said, this is the month of March, and a happy Women's Day to you. And I hope you had a very great celebration. And I cannot believe you're kind of matching too. It's like blue, your necklace and my outfit. It's like we really are. So, welcome, Tamina. How are you doing?
Welcome. Well, thank you so much for welcoming and that beautiful introduction, Tasnuva, and happy International Women's Month to you too. How lucky is it for our Bangladeshi community to have somebody like you who is leading the charge and blazing trails in Bangladesh? So I'm very honored to be here and I'm so excited to have this discussion with you.
Tamina, we all know, like, being a woman and, like I said, and doing all the work that you do, like I said, not just, women plays so many roles, and you do too. Like, and you're a daughter, you're a mother, you're a wife, you're a boss lady. And I'm sure it wasn't an easy journey. How, like, we all face that, like, we feel like nobody understands it, where everybody, they all think, it's so easy for us, and but we know it's not. It's really not. And but then again, we have to do it, because we are made that way. we have we are the only people who can actually make sure, is, where the world gets the population to, the next we give the next generation, like, so it is us, nobody else can do it, we have the power. But then again, some people, like, say, oh, she's taking too much time, she there's always so much judgment, like, she's not taking care of her child, or she's taking care of her child way too much. So there's no end to it. So why don't you tell us, like, how did you overcome these, like, personal challenges or professional challenges, because you we all had to go through these at some point. Why don't you say share some of that with us? Because I think some of our audiences might actually connect with that, because we all had to hear it. Us working mothers, or even stay-at-home mothers, like, whether you're stay-at-home mom, that's a problem. You work, that's a problem. Like, everything is a problem.
Hmm. Yeah, it's such a great question, Tasnuba. And first of all, I am so lucky. I have an incredible mother and I have an incredible husband. Growing up, my mother used to say all the time, because I'd like to read my books and not do anything else, and all the time, and it still rings in my ear, "Je radhe, she chulo badhe." And it's interesting that as the modern day has arrived, in 2024, that Radha and Julbadha has taken different types of meanings. And which are you doing? It's you, all of us as mothers, we still have to cook, but that the other things that are in life, we have to do all of them. And the question is, what is your capacity? How are you prioritizing? Which one do you do now? How do you understand time management? And how do you balance? And that juggling act is not easy. It's an age old problem about motherhood and being a working mother. And you mentioned that it's a problem about being at home or working, and there's judgment from other people, but there's also judgment within our own hearts. There's guilt within our own hearts. The mother's guilt is so real. Are you cooking enough for your child? Are they getting enough nutrition? Are they bathed every day? Are they doing their homework every day? And as the children grow up, the different priorities for the children, you know. And so the juggling act is truly one that you have to figure out on your own. You can listen to me, listen to Tasnuva, but your life is going to be whoever's listening. Your life is uniquely yours, and you have to figure out how do you balance that. So I say that I have villages around me. My law firm is my second family. Everybody at my office is essentially a family member, and we juggle. We juggle who's doing what, when, how. So it's a constant juggling battle and constantly prioritizing what is more important. It's in the United States with immigration challenges, and many of your listeners may know this, that there are visa processing delays, there are deadlines with when you must file something. Just on Monday, April 1, the government is changing all of the immigration forms and changing all of the fees. And that means that all of the forms that my clients have signed already need to be filed by Friday, which is tomorrow. And that is a huge juggling act of okay, how long am I working today? What time am I leaving the office? The other day I went to the office at 7 a.m. I came back at, 9 p.m., just making sure that if I don't do my part, my team can't do their part.
Oh God.
And it's a constant juggling battle. At home, my husband is just incredible, that children need to be going to, ice skating. That's what my children do in their spare time as an extracurricular, or they're doing ballet, and all of these need, driving back and forth. And when that happens, who's doing that? So there's a partnership is important, understanding is important, and having your support system around you is critical. So, do I have a magic wand? No. But what I do have is a lot of passion, a lot of desire to make impact and to make the world a better place when I'm not here.
That's amazing, Tamina. You're right. It does take a village to raise a child, and you actually need a very good support system. I completely agree with that, and it is very important to have a support system and a very supporting partner. um, that is what helps a lot, whether it's your partner or your mother, or any caregiver. That's very important, because you cannot actually be at the same time. I was actually I had actually last Saturday I was at a seminar that was really important. I wanted to be there, but then there was a parents teacher meeting at my son's school, and I had to be there too. And I was really feeling, why I could I make myself, I needed a clone of myself so that I could be at two places at the same time, because I couldn't send somebody else at my parents' son's parents teachers meeting. I had to be there, and I couldn't send somebody else at the seminar. Even though I did take an associate from my law firm, and I left him, but I had to leave earlier from the seminar that I really wanted to attend, because I just barely made it to my son's parents teacher meeting. Like, I was actually 5 minutes late. So I totally get it. It gets hard, but we make it, because then again, I was passionate, because we were passionate about what we do. I wanted to be at the seminar. I could have like been like, oh, forget it, it's okay. Or I could have been like, I don't want to be at my son's parents teacher meeting. It's okay, I'll pick up the report card later. I don't want to know what she's doing at school. But both are really important. We are going to be prioritizing, but sometimes it does, it does get a bit too much. But then again, I think I have kind of learned to balance myself. I don't let it get out of control. But Tamina, your story is so inspiring, because you are a Bangladeshi British American. You're like a BBA, some might say.
I love it. I'm going to have to call myself a BBA from here.
So, and you wear multiple hats, and you ace at all of them. You are a frequent speaker at industry and legal events, such as SXSW, Select USA, D Globalist, the International Bar Association, the American Immigration Lawyers Association, the National Conference of Bar Presidents, the universities, including Stanford, Columbia, the University of Washington. Then you also helped found a nonprofit, the Washington Immigrant Defense Network. And you co-founded the Airport Lawyers, and you provided critical services during the Muslim bans, travel bans. And in the recent times, you helped train 1,500 lawyers on immigration law, uh, to assist them with the Afghan national crisis. Like, is there anything you cannot do? Like, how do you connect with people from so many different cultures? Like, does BBA help? We
BBA helps so much. First of all, thank you so much for listing those. I want people to know I didn't do all of those at once.
yes.
Everything happened over time, depending on what the crisis is or whatever that conference is. Um, BBA helps. I don't know if everybody knows this, but I was born in London. My dad is from Bagirhat, Khulna, and my mom is from Joshua. And in fact, my mother is currently in Joshua. In case anybody's listening to this in Joshua, go say hi to her. So at the age of 8, my parents took us to Bangladesh. So between 8 and 18, I lived in Bangladesh and I did my metric porika in Bangladesh. But within Bangladesh, I lived in Dhaka initially, then I lived in Joshua, then I lived in Bagirhat, and then I came back to Dhaka. And when I did my metric porika, I was seventh in the Dhaka board out of girls and boys, and then I was fourth among the girls. Now, none of that really meant much in the UK or
UK.
anywhere else.
Yeah.
And the education system is so different that I struggled when I went back to London. So I struggled at age 8 going into Bangladesh, learning Bangla, adjusting to the weather. I almost died from jaundice. It was a struggle adjusting, and then coming back at 18, it was even more difficult because at 18, you have a personality, you have friends. And any of my friends in Bangladesh, Facebook has been a great reconnector to find people that I went to school with at various different places. And 18 was difficult. English as a language of communication on paper all over again. I went to a Bangla medium school. I initially went to an English medium school when I was younger. I went to Maple Leaf, and I was only there for we moved to Joshua, and then there's no English medium there. So I had to learn to be part of a Bangla medium school. And when that happened, I had to really just immerse myself like everybody else. It's no different. And then when I came back to London, the adjustment was much more difficult. But, you work hard. That's what you have to do in life. You work hard, you sink or swim. And I eventually swam. But the goal was always to become a barrister. My father was a barrister. My nana, my chacha, my mama, it's a legal profession family. And it was a given that I was going to become a lawyer, but I really wanted it. And the system in London is very different from the US. In London, you must do a pupillage, an apprenticeship, a traineeship, and that's very difficult to get. And so I didn't get that the first year after graduating. I had to throw myself into volunteerism to be able to get the experience I needed to stand out. And once I got that pupillage, I was able to qualify as a barrister in the UK. And that was a huge accomplishment for me because I really had to do it on my own, figure it out, get it, impress people about the experience I've gathered. And sort of like what you're doing now, I was doing that as a student, creating informational events, having sold out events at Middle Temple, at law school. And all of that helped me realize that, if there's a will, there's a way. If there's a will, there's a way. That's my favorite saying out of some of my, handful of favorite sayings, because চেষ্টা যদি নিজে না করে, nobody can help you. People, it's like taking the horse to the water, but not the horse has to drink the water. And so that's what I did. But eventually I moved to the US, and then I had another transitional challenge. It's like life has been one transition after another. But it also gave me the opportunity to say, I can do this. I can do this. Again, growing up in Bangladesh, I had, my mom, thank goodness she protected us. She looked out for us. She stayed up with me when I was studying for my exams. When the results, people laugh at this joke. It's not a joke. It was a fact. The day of the results of the metric porika, I was like, I'm going to be first. And then the radio comes on and somebody else is first. And I'm like, okay, second. No, I'm not second. They say third. I'm not third. I was in tears. I was like, oh my God, my life is over. And, I locked myself in a bedroom and I was crying. And I lived in Modhubag at the time. If anybody from Modhubag is here, hello to you all. And all of my sirs from teachers from Sher Bangla High School, hi to you. In suddenly there was a sort of rumbling of people that you could hear from the house, and that rumbling was getting louder and louder and louder. And when it's sort of like, oh my gosh, the rumbling is coming into our house, and then this group of people, like our neighbors and teachers, were all running to our house saying, Pinky has Pinky stand করেছে, Pinky stand করেছে. That's my name at home, Pinky. And it's suddenly like, what she said, and I was like so upset, thinking, but I wasn't first, second, or third. That doesn't matter. It's like if you ask anybody in that time in Modhubag at Sher Bangla, they'll just be laughing at you, or laughing about this. That we ran. We were so excited that our school had a student who had this, this record. They started a new record for the school, and I was so upset. So from going to that, with my mother supporting me and my siblings, and coming to London, and then really struggling to adjust, and then moving to the US, that transition was equally difficult. My husband is absolutely incredible. I'm so very lucky and fortunate and blessed, and so very grateful that the universe, Allah, has given me the soulmate. He supported me in every action I took. And when I started my practice, he said, go and start your own law firm. And if you fail, I will still love you. And that is what helped me get off the ground to all the things that we're doing today.
So you struggled so much, like I said, because I did the bar. I'm a barrister too. Like we did in UK. I was at the I was at the city law school. It was at that time it was called the Inns of Court.
Yeah, me too. What year?
We'll talk about that later.
Okay. We'll talk about that later. But Inns of Court
Yeah,
changed into City University during the
now
time.
it's the city law school. It was now it's the city law school. So I was a member of the Lincoln's Inn. We were not in the same temple, but yeah. So I know how hard it is to get the pupillage, and especially if you're an international student, it's like impossible. So I can imagine if you're being a British citizen, if you were struggling. So imagine us being international students, because they know they're not going to invest 2 years on you, knowing that you're going to leave. So yeah, and but after getting and doing all this, you moved to the States. Was it for love? Was it? What was it?
Mhm.
Was it
Yeah,
love?
that's such a good question. My husband is American, and I was introduced to him by family members, and eventually we got married. I never intended to live in America. America was not the place I wanted to live. When I lived in Bangladesh, and within Bangladesh, we had a lot of struggles, lots of struggles, going from Dhaka to Bagirhat, and having lots of life challenges. To come through that, the goal was to get back to London. And once I got back to London, I'm home. London will always be my home. I never envisioned living in America, where, the politics at the time just seemed so, George Bush was the president. And it's, why would I want to live in America? But I met this incredible human. And, you go where the heart is. And that's how I ended up in America. I moved here for love. But I wrote an article which is published in the Seattle Times, and I'll send that to you to share it if it's of interest. But all the dreams I had, America made it true.
I'm gonna come to
I
your
say that.
articles and your writings right next, because I had a feeling, because that's why I asked you, because if a girl does all this and then moves, it had to be love. But I wanted to hear it from you, because as women, we are very we can move mountains for love. We
Mhm.
are like that. So I just wanted to hear it from you. So I'm going to move next. Like, this is like, like I said, I cannot stop talking about your successful career. So I'm going to go on, because it's a long list. I'm sorry, I cannot
Thank
help it.
you.
So yeah, you had, like I said, an amazing career. Your passion to help people, it's really not about, it has been your passion to help people. It has not been about making money, or it has not been about fame, because we know immigration law is not always about money. It's actually about a lot about helping people. And like I said, you did a lot of social work, and you are also amazing at what you do. and you are actually the go-to expert for the media. And like you said, this us CIS, because like I said, I also lived in the States, and we kind of had a lot of common paths. Like, I am also somewhat BBA, if you might say, because I did. I live in Bangladesh. Study in the UK, and I lived in the States. So we kind of. I'm also a bit of BBA. Yeah. So I know that you so you are the go-to expert for the media, because these immigration laws keep on changing. It's annoying, but they change it, and you have to be updated. You have to check the USCIS websites like almost every hour, every day, for updates. I used to do that every morning. So you are the go-to expert for the media, and you have been featured in the New York Times, at the Forbes, at the NPR, the Bloomberg. You are also a columnist for the Above the Law. Your opinion pieces have been published at the Forbes Business Council, Entrepreneur Magazine, and the Seattle Times. Your latest book, The Startup Visa, the US Immigration Visa Guide for Startups and the Investors, has received numerous awards. Numerous. I'm not going to list them. I'm sure you have a shelf full of those awards in your house. And has been translated into Spanish. And you made a fantastic appearance, like I said at the beginning, at the New York Times Square. And you also host two podcasts, Tahmina Talks Immigration and the Startup Visa. Please tell us, like, how was the feeling being at the billboard at Times Square? Like, we go to Times Square, like, at the New York Times Square at night, and we, see stars, celebrities, and when you saw yourself, like,
Yeah.
BBA, a
Yeah,
BBA.
PPA there, I mean, that moment was so, so special, so special. And I actually have a capture of my reaction on video that I have not shared in public. It was an accidental capture of me because I was walking with my camera, hoping to take a picture of the video as I came across it, but I didn't realize it was on myself. And so you see my eyes light up,
The
but
BBA.
you know so exciting and such a proud moment. But what you said at the beginning of really trying to help people and having an impact, that's really where it all started. It didn't start with I'm going to be on a billboard. That just happens to be part of what happened next, but it starts with people wanting to help people. Ultimately, every human on earth, we are about love and we are about connection. And if the thing that we don't understand and don't see is that we're all connected. If one group does well, we all do well. And if there's a way to understand that one person's welfare affects all of us, the world would be in a much better place today. The
Okay.
divisiveness that we see is because we're not loving each other enough, not loving ourselves enough. So and that sort of notion only, that realization happened in the last several years, but I always had that in me to help people. And I want to share a story of my mom again that was an inspiration, something that still haunts me. When we lived in Bangladesh and Bagirhat, my mother was a social worker, and I remember being very young, and she brought a young lady to our house. And the young lady was বাংলাদেশে যেরকম গুড় থাকে না, গুড়ের ভিতরে you জ্বালায়, গুড় জ্বালায়. This woman was thrown into the gur as it was being domestic abuse, basically, because in the গ্রামের বাড়িতে, the husband's family basically were like, তোমরা যৌতুক দাওনি, so I'm going to essentially kill you. And my mother saved that woman, and she brought her to the house, and it made a lasting impact on what it means to be somebody who saves somebody else. Ultimately, God is within all of us. To serve humans is to serve the higher power. And so that lasting impression has stayed with me forever. And it's all about how do we help people to the best of our abilities. And each of us have different skills. Some are doctors, some are teachers. And whatever our profession is, if you can do it with love for the act that you're doing, the love for the law, love for the medicine, love for the education, whatever your profession might be, if you are actually doing it with all the compassion that you can bring to serve the other individual, there is no reason why you will not be able to make the impact that life expects you or wants you to have.
You're so right. I think it all comes down to your having good intention. If you have good intention, everything falls into place. It might take a while for other people to see it. It may take a while for even you to believe in yourself, because you might think like, what am I doing? Why don't why don't I see, why don't other people see what I'm doing is good? Because it takes a while, but at the end, you will see yourself in the billboard, and you will actually be at awe that all that hard work, all working overtime, and like not sleeping, waking up early, it has all paid off. It makes it all worthwhile. And when you see those faces, like sometimes you help people and you see those faces that thank you. You have actually, all these people that you've helped during their crisis. Like they probably would have been stuck at the airport for days, more months, and they could go back home to their families. You probably made it. You have saved their lives, like and not just one person. There with one person, there are more people connected with that person. The entire family is connected, so you have made an impact in all their lives. So a blessing takes you a long way. So we don't really understand that at that point, but it does help, and I truly believe that. And thank you, Tamina. I mean, it has been lovely talking about your journey and the kind of work you have been doing, and I hope we have more people like you who are passionate and more giving, and God bless your mother, who has taught you to be kind and generous. May she live a long and healthy life. Assalamu alaikum, auntie. I hope you're having a good Ramadan. And if she has any plans of coming to Dhaka, please ask her to call me or give her my number. So right now, I want to tell you about the startup scene, share some data and some statistics on what's happening in Bangladesh. Bangladesh has kind of um, had like progressed a lot as a nation, and the role of technology per se has played a big in terms of promoting the startups and raising foreign funds ranging from for example, like 2 million USD to 65 million USD, which includes both B2B business models and B2C business models. So these are like huge business, huge amounts. Here are some of those stats. So which are like really mind blowing. A Dhaka-based agri-tech startup. Okay, it's AgroShift, which helps farmers sell their produce to businesses and consumers by providing a tech enabled supply chain. It has raised 1.8 million, in marking the country's largest pre-seed round in the startup ecosystem, which is amazing.
It's
In addition,
incredible.
yeah, and I am proud to say that there has been a lot of local investments too in the startups from Bangladesh, like mostly from telcos though, because they have a lot of funds, and amongst many others. And they're hosting many programs that incubate and help startups. And many of them I was telling you about earlier, they're focusing on female led businesses. female-led founding entrepreneurs. And many of our government organization and banks are like, providing, special loans or special programs or fundings for businesses which are owned by women. And there is a one of our very own local shining star is the Startup Bangladesh Limited. It is the first and the only venture capital fund sponsored by the government. It started its journey in March 2020, which where the government actually allocated a capital of 500 crore taka, and it has already made several investments during the year, and they are quite successful. And I do hear, like, there are a lot of talents, a lot of people are here, they have a lot of ideas, but they say, like, I have a lot of ideas, some of them are way ahead for the market, like they're thinking, like, Bangladesh, the local market is not ready, but the idea is kind of really good. um, and most of the talents in Bangladesh that we have, um, they want to leave the country and go to America. But then, I have a great idea, but the market is not ready, and they don't have fund. um, and if they would want to get fund from abroad, it's kind of a challenge, and they want to start somewhere else, but it's a very cumbersome process. So, what did you know anything about this? Did you have any idea about the startup scene that's going on? Like,
A little bit. I'm so grateful that you shared this. I mean, I definitely knew what was happening. I've been involved in a few startup initiatives in Dhaka, but I just feel like there is just so much energy going on in Bangladesh. It is where India was maybe 10 years ago, but maybe it's going to expedite its growth. And Bangladeshi, us Bangladeshis, we are talented as a group of people. And if there is a directions given properly, people will succeed. So I think it's a very exciting time to be in Bangladesh. And to be honest, other countries too. But like after I do a lot of presentations in different continents, sometimes through Zoom, sometimes in person. But the energy of the startup is incredibly what's the word, chua chui, contagious. And it's really interesting to see people really being creative in Bangladesh. We're not necessarily following, follow the followers as much, where people are coming out with their creativity. So I think, thank you for sharing that. I think it's really important. And what I will say to anybody listening is, if your ideas are too forward for Bangladesh at the moment, my clients have come from all different walks of life and all different countries. They've started in the US and expanded into their home countries. They started in their home countries and expanded into the US. You do not have to let your idea sit. Think about where in the world your idea could actually be fruitful. Do not take no as an answer. I think that's part of what is so important, is to be, that idea that you have, that you believe in. Find other people who believe in that and you, so that you can find the right place in the world. The world is a big place, but at the same time, it's getting smaller and smaller by the day. I have clients who are in different parts of the world who are like, I don't necessarily need to come to the US. I want the my business to expand into the US, and they're doing so well. And then maybe several years later they come in. There are some clients who had businesses here, did really well, and they expanded to different countries, and now they've I should traveling back and forth. It really depends on the facts, but I think it's very exciting. And all the work that I've done for the last 2 decades in startups, I feel as though now is the time that I can truly help people. You mentioned this before, but this is the book that I wrote, the Startup Visa US Immigration Visa Guide. I don't know if people can see it. And
yes.
this is available. This is actually my third book, but really my fifth. I have 5 books in total. But this book came about because I really tried to change the law. I thought my goal was, if I could change the law, I could help a lot more people. Just like we discussed a little earlier, the laws of Bangladesh are so old. How do they keep up with the modern day? that is not untrue for America as well. Our laws are from the 90s and the 50s and 60s. That doesn't jive with the 2024 world of technology revolutions. And even 10 years ago, as all of these um, revolutionary innovations have changed the world. WhatsApp, Zoom, all the things you and I are just connecting, from Bangladesh and the US, it's happening because of a lot of the innovations that have come through. The laws need to stay in line with this, but they're not. So my book, this one here, and if for anybody who has, I mean, I understand that Bangladesh doesn't have Amazon or Barnes and Noble, but there I will definitely talk to Tasnuva to see how we can make sure that you have it in Bangladesh. But every visa in the United States can be used for, multiple visas can be used for startups. Which one is the right one for you will really depend on your facts and circumstances. We do have something called an international entrepreneur parole. It is a very new program. And just a little history, I write about it in depth in the book, but we did not have this. I have been advocating for a startup visa since 2007, 8, 9, and since 10, you really diving into it, ever since I started practicing, because I've been helping startups. And the startup world has sort of shifted from the 2006 to 10 to really becoming what it is now. And now it's on a different level. But at that time, not a lot of people were really understanding, or lawyers at least were not really paying attention to this, whereas I was deep into this. And so that's what really led me to writing about it, advocating for it. But fast forward to 2021, when it became very clear that President Biden would not be able to get immigration reform because Congress in this country is just too divisive. And that's when I said, I need to actually be able to tell all the people who want to use a visa to expand their businesses into the US how to use it. And so that's how the book came about. And I'm so proud of it. I'm so grateful. I've had so many people request me to write this book 10 years ago. I was not ready for it. I was really going with the law. Where is the policy and the law staying? And now it is really changing lives, and I'm so proud. But I really want my my parents' homeland, my country of my heritage, to be able to utilize the knowledge and experience I've gathered, so that I can help those people who are trying to change Bangladesh and take it to the
I
next
want that.
level.
I want that. I'm with you on that. And the really, there are many other ways to get that book here, but we already had a chat about it. We're gonna work on that because I think there are so many people who can benefit from it. And I just want to ask you, as a follow up to that, is there any special category for, like I was telling you, for women in the startup sector? Because there are some here in Bangladesh, like, if you're a woman founder, or if you're a woman led entrepreneur, you get some, there's a like a special, is there anything like that in the startup visa sector?
From an immigration perspective, no. Immigration is like
Okay,
agnostic,
I just had to.
agnostic of individuals, agnostic of industry. If you're an ag tech, med tech, just opening a branch of your garments factory, or you're going to have a branch of your restaurant, all the visas can be used for any of these industries in whatever way. It is how you strategically use it,
So if
is
you
the
want,
key.
if you have to highlight, like, two, three things that, that an entrepreneur or like a uh, startup founder should kind of,
Yeah, yeah.
prioritize.
So
If
have you raised money? And if you want to, so I'm talking from from the perspective of, if you want to move to the US. If you're trying to move to the US, is your business already functioning in Bangladesh? Have you raised money that can fund the company in the US? How many owners do you have? What is the foundational structure of your company that could possibly mirror in the US? That could be something called an L visa. I would really love Bangladeshi community to understand the L visa a lot more, because Bangladeshi business people are very savvy. You can use it. But if you do not have
Aren't
a
they
company,
expensive? Like a lot of, isn't that really
so the
expensive?
visas, the what I will say to people is yes, no matter what visa application you apply for, it's going to be expensive. That's the cost of business. The lawyer's fee, the filing fees, and the filing fees will be going up significantly from
Mhm.
Monday. um, that is an inherent cost. Don't let that be an obstacle. You have to
Mm.
spend money to get money. You should not be, if you have big ideas, you need to make sure that you spend where you will get the value to make sure you are successful. You're not spending just to put it in a black hole and not be successful.
Love
Spend
it.
it where it's going to make a difference. But the spending, the funds come into a different place. Is there funds, enough funds to operate the business? Have you raised money in the United States? So right now, the international entrepreneur, so going back to entrepreneur parole, is
Mm.
very new. It's taken about 2 or 3 years. It's taking 2 or 3 years for these cases to go through. And for a while, we didn't even know if they were going to be approved. But just in March 2024, 3 cases have been approved that we know of. And it is designed for startups. If you have raised money for at least $265,000 from a US investor,
Wow.
and you are one of the people who made a foundational people of the company, you own at least 10% of the company,
Mm.
and 3 co-founders. It's sort of like taking on a startup. Often there are, generally 3 co-founders. You
Mm.
can use the international parole. Now, this is not visa, it's a parole, and it's not quick. But if you are able to do this, contact me. I would love to be able to help you, because that means you do not have to get in the H1B lottery. And thus, Nuva, you know about the H1B
Oh,
lottery.
it's
We're
magic.
just going through it. The lottery just closed on Monday, but boy, it is a completely uncertain, uh, you know, um, situation. And if you
Mm.
have a startup with funds from other people, you don't have time to waste. So that doesn't work for the H1B. The L visa could work. The E2 visa, Bangladeshi citizens must know about the E2 visa. The E2 visa will allow you to come to the US and start your business. It's not available to Indian citizens, it's not available to Chinese citizens, it's not available to many other countries, but Bangladeshi citizens are absolutely privileged to be able to use it. We are not using it enough. So what visa is right for you will honestly depend on your facts and circumstances and your goal. But what people should take away is focus on the now, have a plan. Well, at least from an immigration perspective, your plan might be, I want to be a citizen, I want to be a green card holder. But have a plan for just now. What is the visa that works now? Let's make sure that happens, make sure your company has a foundational success level, and then we might have to move on to a different visa and a different visa. And it's really important for people to know it's not one size fits all, and none of it's easy. But if you get hung up on how much it's going to cost you, then you're not going to get to the end line.
Thanks, Namina. That was all really good to know. I did not know about this startup parole one. That's very new. And like I said, these US CIS, they keep on changing, and I know you have to be really updated. So thank you. That's been really helpful. And what I wanted to know, so if somebody, I think, like I said, some of our ideas are like, they're new, and like, Bangladesh market is not ready. So I want to start off in the US and then expand back to Bangladesh. So what would be kind of the right thing? And would that would
It,
be
it again depends on whatever business and whatever visa you have in the United States. You need to capitalize it. If you're not getting investment from others, you need to capitalize it. The government wants to know at a very simple level that you can pay your bills for your office and you can pay your mortgage or lease and have food on the table.
is
So investment is going to be important regardless. And the when you're starting a business in the US, an idea is sufficient, but you need to have uh fully, an idea that has a business plan. And there are various business plan writers in America, various companies. I work with a handful of them that I trust. They will help you formulate your plan. Just make sure it reads well on paper, that an immigration officer can understand it. You know, what people should take away is you have a story. Every one of us, Tasnuva, you have a story, I have a story, a startup has a story. That story has to be understood by the immigration officer to say, yes, this story tells me that it matches all of the requirements of this particular visa, no matter what the visa is. But you cannot do this half-heartedly. You have to put everything in it. As a lawyer, every case is a baby. It needs to be fed properly. All of those things have to happen, but the baby needs to cooperate. And it's really, really important that everybody understands that it's all about the paperwork. Often the question is, oh, don't you just fill out forms?
I can do
Yeah.
it by myself. I don't need a lawyer.
Yes, that's right. It's just forms, right? The truth is, the forms are a vehicle for the government to take your money and put you in a bucket. What helps make the case successful is the paperwork. And that paperwork, the evidence, takes a lot of time to generate sometimes. But if you're a startup already functioning somewhere in the world, you will have a lot of that paperwork. And it's just building on that. So with the right guidance, there's no reason why you couldn't be successful unless there's an administration that is deliberately being difficult, like we saw in the previous one.
That's right. So, just one question because I know a lot of our audience might have this question. So, with this visa, can a lot of can the families and children and
Hmm.
spouses
Really
added
good
here?
question. Good question. So just to emphasize, the international entrepreneur parole is permission to be in the U.S. It is not a visa. Everything else, H-1B, E-L, these are visas, but that's parole. Um, you can bring your family members and your children. And in fact, unlike some visa categories, such as the H-1B, the spouse in the parole can actually work as well. The E2, the spouse can work. The L1, the spouse can work. In H4's, H-1B, the spouse can work only after certain things have been met in the immigration journey. But our Bangladeshi citizens have so much opportunity if they were to know them all and understand them. In 2012, just as my second baby was born, I actually came to Bangladesh. And Bangladesh was not the startup scene at the time. They were not ready to hear what I had to say. And they were very hung up on different issues. But I did. I came and I was astounded by the change of Bangladesh from 2000 and, 1993 is when I went back to London. From the 90s to 2005, I stayed at the Westin in Gulshan, and I did my seminar there. It was so interesting to see the changes. And of course, you've talked about changes in Bangladesh, and I hear there is a train now, and the
Metro
bridges
rail,
are connecting.
express
One
metro rail, yeah.
expressways. So it sounds like there's been a lot of development that is very, very needed and welcome. And I can't wait to see it sometime.
Yeah, I think it's been over a decade. I think it's about time you pay a visit now. We with
only if
we,
only
so
if I get to see birds and wildlife.
yeah, I think Baggerhat has a lot of birds. I think if nothing else, that'll get you to it. Your mother is here. If nothing else, you should come. And I think we have to. We have to get you here. We need you. You need your book. We need to get you here because, like I said, there's so much happening here. This would be our good time for you to, because, like I said, it's been over a decade since you last came. And
Over a decade. Well, we'll talk. We can talk about it offline for sure.
yeah, for
But
sure.
what I want people to know is, if you want to be a successful startup, um, don't let anybody stop you. Don't take no for an answer. And if you want to expand your business into the United States, the United States has a large agricultural industry. And all the things that people are learning and doing in Bangladesh, why couldn't it be replicated in the US? Yes, there are lots of differences in culture and working mechanisms, but that technology that you're using would absolutely be welcome here. So, you know, I think at some point it might be well worth talking a little bit more deeply, but I'm just so proud of Bangladeshis doing what they're doing and growing with the times.
I mean, we're almost at the end of our show. I don't know how we finished an hour. I think I could talk to you for a couple of few more hours, but we will do that. I know you have a busy schedule. So I'm just gonna quickly pick up and wrap up few points for our viewers because, like, we've been talking a lot. So if a non-immigrant has to start a business in the US, these are the few things that they should keep in mind at first. Like, determine a business structure and business entity type, like an LLC or whatnot, because like I said, we are both BBAs, we know kind of. So they should have a comprehensive business plan. They should do a bit of research on, like, the required licensing and the permits that's needed. And they should secure some funding and like a location, because we know America is so big. Like, which state, where do you want to start your, like, business? That location is important, so pick your location. You need to register your business, you know that's important. And you also have to comply with the employment regulations, because compliance is highly important. If so, all these things, but these are all very general overview, of course. Everyone should, like, get professional advice from an attorney, which is, basically, they have two attorneys here, both the one licensed in Bangladesh, one licensed in the US. So they should, of course, these are all general ideas. If you want to make a life changing decision, you should, of course, get professional help, and seek professional advice, before making any big decision like that. And I think, I at the end, I want to thank you, Tamina. And like I said, I really don't know how this happened. We are literally wearing the same colors, like your pendant and my top. It's literally,
Yeah.
we are matching. I don't know how this happened. But, thank you so much. It was amazing having you and listening to your invaluable insights. And I hope our audience had will have a great time listening to you. And I hope this webinar has equipped them and will help them, motivate them to make a good choice. And if they believe in their startup, in their idea, in their innovation, they should not give up. And I loved what you said. You got to spend money to make money. And it is so true. You should never give up on your dream. And I hope I was also able to tell you about the exciting opportunities that technology is presenting in the Bangladesh startup sector. And this episode has been very entertaining and resourceful. And I had a great time conversing with you, Tamina, I must say.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure getting to know you too, and just inspiring to see all the things that you are doing and all the people that are listening. Keep doing what you're doing, don't give up. And if you wanted to connect with me, I'm on LinkedIn, Tamina, Tahmina Watson. You can connect with me there. If you want to know about my law firm and my services, the website is watsonimmigrationlaw.com. And we have a very active blog, so you can sign up to the blog to get information about what's changing. And then I have an author website. It's Tamina Watson, Tahmina Watson, WATSON.com. And that's where you'll find all my books, my photography. And I'd love to connect and tell me your stories. Tell me what's going on. It would be great to know what's happening in your lives.
And please listen to her podcasts. They're amazing. I love listening to your podcasts, Tamina. And it was great chatting with you, and always great fun. It was, again, amazing. And thank you, everyone who's been with us and who will be listening to this later on. It's good night from me, and good morning to you again, Tamina. Bye bye.
Thank you so much. Bye bye.